Folks, we got bad news this morning. Today's April 16th, 2020, that both the SBA EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program loan, have been depleted. Funds have been depleted. Now, I'm going to explain to you what that means and explain to you what that may mean to you if you are in queue to get the funds. So you haven't been funded yet, but you already done an application. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in Congress to possibly expand the funding to that program. So don't despair. Maybe through the video, I'll answer some questions. I don't have all the answers, but at least I like to give you some hope in terms of what to look for if you already started the process of PPP and or SBA. Now, one thing I tell you for sure, if you haven't applied and your banking institution still takes the applications, still send it. Still put your application in. Don't get your hopes up, but still do it because Congress is talking about expanding these funds as we speak. Now, I'm going to play a quick a video clip from CNBC, and then I'll give you some comments after.
That's right. Well, this program really had overwhelming demand from day one, which is why you're seeing so many small businesses scrambling right now, as 1.6 million of these loans have been approved and assigned that SBA E-Tran number from nearly 5,000 lenders, completely exhausting this $350 billion fund. Now, many questions remain. What happens to these businesses that started the process with their banks? Do they get to stay in their place in line? What amount of aid would even be enough to service the nation's 30 million small businesses when this $350 billion went to just 1.6 million loans? Also, how much aid has actually been paid out? We continue to ask. The CEO of the Consumer Bankers Association estimated yesterday tens of billions of dollars in aid had been paid out, adding that banks really had a horrendous start with the SBA. Now, as lawmakers continue to work on a deal toward an additional round of funding, we caught up with Senator Shaheen.
Okay. All right. That's enough. That gives you a good idea of the questions that are out there. So question number one, what happens if you are in queue, which means you already sent an application and you already submitted documents and the bank has already given you a note or what looks like a note for you to sign or for you to approve, you are probably in line to get funding. So even though you haven't got it funding today and they've announced today that the funds are gone, you might still be in line for funding because the funds are gone doesn't mean that they're not funding anymore. It just means the SBA will stop giving E-Trans numbers. E-Trans numbers, it's basically how the SBA allocates the funds. Now, some important figures that they're discussing here is that 1.6 million businesses got funded. We have 30 million small businesses and self-employed individuals. Somehow government really screwed this one up, and they thought, or they calculated or miscalculated, or honestly, I don't think they calculated at all. They literally pulled this number out of a hat, the 350 billion, and said this is going to be enough. And basically, this has caused a lot of frustration, not for the people that haven't applied yet. I'm sure that if you haven't applied and you just heard about this and you're just starting to be diligent as of today and trying to get the loan, you know what? Honestly, you're late to the game. But for the people that applied from day one, like me, I applied on day one on hour zero, like it was 8 a.m. on April 3rd when this thing opened up, and I applied to Bank of America. And I've been confident the entire time. I didn't apply anywhere else for my business with my employees because it's Bank of America. They were first in line. I was first in line. And today I haven't gotten funded. So it's been 2 weeks almost, and I'm still worried that I'm not going to get my own PPP, which is particularly frustrating for someone that has spent, from day zero creating content, reading this, sharing it out loud. So I haven't gotten my PPP. Now, I'm not freaking out for numerous reasons. One, because we're still getting work, we're still busy, so I'm glad, I'm really happy that that's the case and I can still pay my employees. And also I have a little bit of confidence, just a tiny little bit, that because I've applied for the loan, I signed the note, but I haven't really gotten the funding. I'm hoping that I am in queue. But right now, the biggest challenge that people have is if you already sent the application, there's no way for you to know whether or not you're in queue or if you have an E-Trans number. If your bank told you you have an E-Trans number, E-Tran number, if they gave you an E-Tran number, then for sure you will get your funds. So I'm pretty highly, 99% confident you will get the funds. If you haven't gotten an E-Tran number or your bank hasn't given you some sort of communication that the SBA has already approved your loan, it is very unlikely that you'll be able to get those funds. So the one thing I'll tell you is it looks like Congress, as we speak, Democrats and Republicans, they're debating about whether they should fund this program some more, whether they should create a new bill that contains additional funding to this program. At the beginning, they started proposing an additional $250 billion. I've heard some reports about lowering that to $200 billion and then allocating funds to other things, hospitals and stuff like that, which kind of makes sense. And there's also thoughts about just another $300 billion, another $300 billion, $350 billion. So if your bank allows you to take applications, I would continue with the process, continue submitting documents. Don't lose your place in line for your PPP just in case they open up more funds. Now, I wouldn't put my hopes on that. I would start thinking about what my business would look like without those funds. I would start thinking about possibly laying off some employees. If you can't afford them, let them get their unemployment. Because I know it's a difficult situation right now because a lot of people had their hopes up or they were counting on these funds to continue operating. So for now, don't despair because God knows if you're a small business owner and you have employees and you're the leader of your company, you freaking out is probably the worst thing that can happen. Plan as if you're not getting the funds. However, do not stop with the process of application just in case this program gets additional funding. And maybe the program gets modified and they create a different program that has different requirements. Who knows? This program was so flawed from the beginning. We didn't get real guidance for self-employed individuals, which were supposed to be part of the package until like April 12th or April 13th. And that's 2 days from the moment the funds were depleted. So how were self-employed individuals without employees even supposed to apply for these loans where the banks weren't letting you because you don't have a business checking account or some other BS, or they didn't know what documents to request, or they requested the wrong documents because they didn't know. So this whole thing has been a mess, and I'm telling you, I share your frustration. The only thing I would advise you is, for the time being, is act as if you're not getting the money, and I'm sorry. That's the only thing I could tell you. Make your decisions that you have to make for the benefit of your business, your employees, and when this passes, you can go back and you'll be able to reconstruct and recover, hopefully. But don't stop the application process. That would be my suggestion. For you that have gotten the funding, the SBA funding, the advanced funding, or the PPP funding, congrats. Put that money to use right away. Bring employees back to work. If you can't work because you're shut down or whatever, bring your employees back, get them off unemployment, and put them to do something productive. Figure out what that means. Anyway, as soon as I have some news, hopefully good news, I'll post a new video and I'll kind of keep you abreast of the situation. I hope this was at least, semi-useful to kind of know what's going on, and I'll see you in the next one.